Millions of Americans are waking up without power on Sunday morning, and millions more will be spending the day indoors as Hurricane Irene moves along the east coast of the United States. It's just made landfall along the New Jersey coast. It's expected to reach its full force in New York City in about 5 hours' time. As you can see, the streets there are nearly empty. Here are the states which either have been or are likely to be affected by the hurricane, which made landfall in North Carolina on Saturday. More than 2 million people in coastal areas have no electricity as the storm knocked out power lines and shut down generation plants. Well, the path from here is through Washington, D.C., where storm water surged up river deltas, causing damage, then onto New York and the northeast corner by Monday. Al Jazeera's John Terrett is in Times Square in New York, where it's just after 6 a.m. in the morning. John, so as we can see, heavy winds and rain have already started to lash New York. Just bring us up to date there. Just how bad are things?
Well, the situation here is that Hurricane Irene is now 100 kilometers from the southern tip of Manhattan, and America's largest city, Darren, is all but locked down, preparing for the eye, we think, to come right over the center of the metropolitan district. Now, I'm in Times Square, New York, and Julian is our cameraman this morning. Julian's just going to pan around and show you Times Square, which I can tell you normally at this time of day, which you rightly say is just after 6 a.m., it would still be thronging. This is the height of the summer season here, remember. There will be plenty of tourists around, even at this early hour of the morning. And look, there's nobody here, just police cruisers and a few stragglers. There are a couple of people who are braving this, but really not very many. And the problem in New York is flooding.
John, I was going to ask you, what about the evacuation? I mean, are we getting a sense of how many people heeded the warnings and left the city?
Yeah, there was a mandatory evacuation order for all low-lying areas of New York City. And the problem is that New York is built around a complicated structure of islands and peninsulas and inlets and rivers and, of course, the ocean itself. And so those low-lying districts are very, very vulnerable to flooding. In fact, they flood on a reasonably regular basis. But there's so much rain coming with Hurricane Irene, as you can see, plus the storm surge as she pushes the seawater higher by about 3 or 4 meters, that there's real concern that if people didn't get out, then they could be in very great difficulty. And I think that the media has been covering this widely here. My understanding is that there are thousands of people in shelters here in New York and in the state of New Jersey next door, and that the warning was pretty much heeded. Now, I don't think people are going to be arrested or fined, particularly if they chose to stay. It's really that they don't want the rescue teams having to go in to get people out if things get really bad. So I'm sure some people have stayed, but the majority have gone to friends or family or colleagues, or they're in shelters.
All right, John Terrett there in Times Square. John, thank you.